Because you
Sure.
can't get it because, and I'm trying not to be insulting, please understand that, guys, but you can't get it because you're atheists. I'm not saying you're stupid, but
Well, they're atheists because they don't get it.
your atheism doesn't allow you certain things like divine revelation. Now,
I just
come on, you
don't-
guys, you know that I'm
we're sidetracked. Like we were
okay,
talking
all right.
about. It's just all
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
we
what
can
did
get back to
Johnny-
that.
what did Johnny Bravo
Let's
say?
That was a
treat
long
let's
time,
treat
Matt.
Matt like
Guys,
he's a person. Okay.
Wait, hold on.
Matt,
Did
I
Johnny
would like
Bravo say
to
something?
ask
Can
you a
someone
question.
mute Muggles, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, please,
Seriously.
Muggles. We need to kick Muggles' ass.
Wait, but what did
Just-
Johnny Bravo say? Or Johnny
I
Walker?
mean, you understand why that criticism that you leveled is not going to hold any water with atheists. Atheists don't believe that God exists, so criticizing him on that basis doesn't make any sense. It's like someone criticizing you for doing something that you don't believe you did. It's
Well,
not going to
it's
hold any water. It's not
It
going to
doesn't
hold
mean
any
the
water.
criticism's not true.
well.
That's a whole other topic. Look, guys,
No, I mean, that's your opinion.
Jesus
right,
rose
Matt?
from
You're
the
entitled to
dead.
it.
He rose from the dead. He fulfilled prophecy. There's evidences. There's things. Your atheism, I'll just say this for a little bit, but your atheism doesn't allow you to entertain certain kinds of propositional facts.
Well,
That's all you're doing.
you
is
said that.
preaching. That's not.
You
that's
said that.
Wait, but
speak
your
about-
theism
we were
does the
talking
same
about-
thing, man.
We were talking
Matt.
about.
No. I can entertain materialism and
We were
naturalism
You
as
can't
possible
entertain
explanations
God does not exist.
because
What?
without him, nothing can exist.
Right, but
There's
you
no
can't
way.
entertain that, right?
Right, I can't because I can't deny a fact
We were
and a
talking
truth.
about the Euthyphro dilemma. We were talking about the Euthyphro dilemma, and then you said that it was a false dichotomy, and then
Okay,
you
repeat
responded.
I
the
thought we would
Euthyphro
get
dilemma.
back to that, though.
Go ahead.
I
What is
thought-
Euthyphro dilemma?
I
Tell
just
us what it
wanted to
is.
point out, Matt.
JJ, shut up and let him ask.
I'm-
He's trying to get back to it right now. Just shut up and let John.
Well, if you could shut up, please, Jovan.
Come on.
Hey,
The
I just
Euthyphro
wanted,
dilemma
I wanted to
says,
treat Matt like a
mod
person.
JJ, we need a mod. We need a moderator to mod JJ because it's just fucking.
Oh my God! Everybody is getting in the way. We were talking about the Euthyphro
Yeah, let's all
dilemma.
just scream and make
let me
noise.
explain it.
So
The Euthyphro dilemma says God either declares something good, which means goodness is arbitrary, or he recognizes something as good, which means there's a good standard outside of himself.
yeah,
And so the problem is that God doesn't do either. He reveals goodness out of the character of his own essence.
right. So is the character of his own essence good
Yeah.
because he has it, or
No.
is it?
No.
So wait. So
He's
the
not
reason
good
that-
because it's a mistake. He simply
So there-
is that.
Right. So that seems to make the concept, if that's the route that you want to go down, that seems to make the concept of God being good unintelligible.
Whatever
because
you call it that, I don't care. Call it what you want. I'm
Yeah,
just
so
telling you.
I thought he wasn't a
just telling-
theological non-cognitivist.
I just telling you. No, I'm not a theological non-cognitivist. I'm a revelationist, and I believe in theological revelation, and that there are things beyond our ability to understand. Guys, I have encountered him. I've encountered him. It's not something I can codify. It's not something I can transfer, but it happened. This is why I am what I am. I wanted to be a marine biologist. I was basically an agnostic, and so things happen. But look, I'm just telling you, the scriptures simply say, and they use the term good, agathos in Greek, and it uses it in descriptions of various aspects of God. And so what we do is we go, oh, so that's what he means by the word good. Oh, okay. And that's it.
Yeah, well,
I just have a comment. So Matt thinks that my atheism blocks the divine revelation. So I have some shield that's more powerful than the omnipotent God trying to give me divine revelation. I have the power to shield myself from him, even though he's attempting to give me divine revelation.
Who said he's attempting to give you divine revelation?
oh,
I didn't
fuck.
say that.
Don't
You
you
could be
think
one
that,
of the
though?
people. You could be one of the people that is ordained by God for damnation.
Sorry,
It wouldn't surprise me.
Is that good, Matt? Like him ordaining to, you know.
God can ordain whatever he desires by definition.
That
He
is good,
knows
right?
absolutely whatever he does is always good and proper.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I understand.
Now here's the thing, like for example, I had a son, and he was born with a birth defect, and he died in our arms, quite literally. And so, was it good? Well, in what sense is it good? Is it good that he died? Well, in a human sense, no. Is it good that we suffered greatly because of it and still do? No, not in that sense. But there are different senses in which goodness exists. And there's different senses in which goodness can be understood. Is it good in that God was glorified through it? And I could tell you how he was, but he was. And then we say, well, yeah, there's goodness in it. Could we say that it was good in the sense that my wife and I grew closer together in our faith with the Lord and our love for each other through it, which is a miracle? That's a good thing. So you see, actions have qualities to them. And I think sometimes with people that I talk to about this, what they try and do is summarize a single instance in a single phrase of goodness. It's the wrong approach. That's why I've been telling you. We see in Scripture goodness is described in many facets in many ways, and we go, oh, that's what he means by good, and there's a semantic domain to it. What you guys are doing is saying, let's get it down to one thing. Good is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Let's go to that. And that's not how it works.
Matt, do you
Yeah,
mind if
that's
I press
understood.
that? So just to address that, it seems that you've created this this goodness in this situation. It's not that you've communicated with God directly and God created or made this situation that you just stated good. You created that goodness yourself, right? You
Nope.
gave this specific situation the title of being good. It's not that God, made it good directly. And if so, you're going to have to prove that to me, right? Because that's what you did earlier.
No,
Well, I
and
have a
no.
question. I think that in Matt's example, all of
I didn't
this
create
stuff
it,
good.
and no, I
Hey.
don't have to prove anything to
Yeah,
you.
car alarms.
I believe that whenever you said the word good, it correlates to what suits your self-interest. You don't want
Okay.
your son to die.
That's-
That's why you think it's not
No,
good.
good is understood in Christianity by the revelation of God and how he uses the word in Greek, for example, agathos, how goodness is used. And we see how it is, and we learn from that. They
Let
go,
me
that's
ask
what
you
good
another
is.
question. Let me ask you then. In your example, was there an instance when you used the word good that did not suit your self-interest?
Was there, I didn't understand the question, sorry.
When you used the word good in your story, was there ever an instance where you said it was not good but did not correlate to your self-interest?
A double negative.
As
Is
in,
there,
like, you thought that your son dying was bad because you didn't want your son to die.
in one sense, yes.
And when you used the word good many times in your story, was there ever a time where it did not correlate to your self-interest?
Of course, goodness often does not correlate to one's self-interest.
Like
Goodness is
when?
not based upon goodness is not based upon what you want.
It's like exercising, man. You can exercise, and even if you don't like it, you're creating some good.
See, goodness is a problem in the atheist world, not in the Christian one.
I don't think so.
It's not
So
a
what?
problem.
Absolutely.
Sometimes
Tell me, okay, pick an atheist and tell me what good is.
Hold on. Do what God
I
wants.
believe it's subjective.
He
I
just
believe
said
good
it's
is
not
what
a
you think.
problem.
1 second, one at a time.
He just said it's not a problem on his worldview, but just minutes before that, I had to step away, but just minutes before that, you said that the good was unintelligible. Like you agreed with me in saying that the good was
No, I didn't
unintelligible.
say good is
and that-
unintelligible.
And in that, in fact,
Oh,
that
well,
in
what did you say then?
that,
If you
that
didn't
in
say
fact,
Did I ever
that
say
in
God
fact-
good is unintelligible?
that in fact was the whole reason that when Danny was talking to you earlier, he was saying it was a problem on the Christian worldview, is because that makes
No.
goodness unintelligible, because you
No,
can't.
That's an argument
no,
that
you're
Don
misrepresenting
holds.
what I'm saying. You're
I've
putting
never heard
together
that.
things and shades of meaning and interpreting my words, but you just blatantly misrepresented
By
me
the way, with
clearly.
your example, essentially what you're doing is you're saying,
Why there
one second, you're
One
saying
at a
that,
time.
Wait, hold on. Why, can we not?
no, but you
Yeah,
cut me
just
off. Let me
breathe?
just finish.
No,
I
actually,
you
promise.
just cut 7 people
let
off.
Matt
What are you
Slick
talking
finish,
about?
please.
Okay, so essentially
Wait,
with
no.
your
Why
example,
does this guy just get to cut everybody? I don't understand.
you
Yeah,
cut
Smeagol.
me.
What's going
Smeagol.
on
No,
with Smeagol?
Smeagol, you cut off Matt Slick's answer.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
But I think Matt Slick
No,
doesn't
he
want to
didn't.
actually address that.
Thank you for being here, Matt.
What?
Yeah, it's good
Yeah,
to see
but
you
wait,
again.
Matt.
I also
so,
wanted to.
Thanks.
what,
I've
you
heard.
said- Did
I've
you say
heard
that you
Tom
weren't
always say
committed to
that.
theological non-cognitivism? Because you seem to imply that you didn't understand what it means to say that something was good.
Good is that which is revealed by God, and how he uses the term as it's related to the revelation and the work of the person of Jesus Christ in the New Testament.
So what is good? What does the word good mean?
Good means what it means in the context of the usage that God has given and chosen to use in his inspired word as it relates to the work and teachings of Jesus. And then
How
we
about this?
learn what it means.
If you didn't
Look,
have the
look,
Bible or
if
anything
someone
you
were to
didn't know about
say,
Jesus, can you still know good
if
from bad?
someone,
If I did, then I'd be like you guys, wouldn't I?
Yep.
Yeah, but we still have an idea what's good or bad.
Well, as an
look, if
atheist,
someone,
you can't. You just, all you
That's not
have,
true, Matt.
None of us
look,
are
if someone were to,
murderers. I would
hold
say.
on.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. You're basically saying that anything that you deem as good, it's not because it relates to God in any way. It's because you are a Christian. It's because you believe in God. So basically, what you're saying,
No,
it's because I believe in God, therefore this event is good, right? It's not because this event
no,
relates back to God in any way, correct? Or I mean, I might be wrong, but go ahead and clarify.
come on,
no.
just
Goodness is not
have
dependent
an
upon my
exorcist.
belief. Goodness
Then
is
didn't you just tell him though that we don't have an idea of what's good and bad because we're atheists? That's exactly what you just said.
So
I was saying that goodness is based upon the character of God. It's revealed in the Word of God and through the person of Jesus. That's what I'm saying. You atheists, you can talk about goodness, but if I were to ask you guys, what is goodness? You give different definitions. And if I said, how do you know something's good? If one of you wants to do this, one of you agree, and then you let me question you for a change.
that's true.
Because you guys
That's true.
question me left and right,
Actually,
and
that's
I'm
an
supposed to hold on.
argument.
Let me finish. You guys, what
Josh
you
should do
do, you guys ask me one question after another for 2 hours at a time, and then when I want to ask you a question, nobody seems to want to return the politeness.
No, we'll do it.
Matt,
Let's
I
Josh will
sent you
do
a
it.
Matt, I sent you a 4-page
Josh,
argument for that.
Okay. So why don't we try that just as an exercise, and maybe we might learn something from that perspective as well. If an atheist who denies God's existence were to dialogue with me about the nature of good, and I could ask questions about that, and
You
she had an
can.
answer.
I'm
Give
open
it a
to.
shot.
Wait, I
Yeah, I
mean,
don't claim to be an atheist.
Well,
Whoever is an atheist, oh, you guys are
I
so
claim to be
difficult.
a de facto atheist. I believe there is a probability that there is a God.
he's not asking for de facto atheists. He's asking for people that claim that God doesn't exist, right? People like Josh, people like me.
I think
Yeah.
specifically the Christian God.
Does
Okay.
Josh want to render an argument for atheist good?
Well, I don't.
Yeah.
So if he wants good in the objective, non-relative sense, then I don't think that there is such a thing. I think that concept is unintelligible. So I
To
think
an atheist.
no, I think
Yes.
it's unintelligible simpliciter.
No,
I
an
think it
objective
implies
standard
a
of goodness would be God's character. Since he's objectively the necessary standard of
Right.
goodness, then we would say as
yeah,
a
but
Christian,
that's
we
just
have an
more
objective
naturalism,
standard.
right?
But the atheist can't have that. So does any atheist want to step up and try this for a little bit?
Well, so that's
Why can't an atheist have that? Where's the argument?
wait, I don't know. Well,
He
what
said
you're talking
objective.
about, Matt, like, is this moral naturalism?
Yeah, but I
didn't
mean, so
realize
what's
that.
the problem with having an objective like good under atheism? Where's the argument?
Who is this?
It's Seth.
That is Mr. Prestigious Seth.
Right, because it's like I've talked to you before, and I'm somewhat familiar with you. Every time somebody asks you why an atheist can't have that, you appeal to ignorance, right? You haven't heard of one, ergo there can't be one. What's the argument?
Okay, what's your first name?
Seth, we spoke it a long time ago in Hangouts.
Sorry, I don't remember, Seth, but thanks for telling me your first name. So are you an atheist?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you believe good exists objectively, outside of your own preferences or independent of your preferences and desires?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay, so you don't even know if there's a good or not.
Right, but I'm also unaware of any argument that says atheism in principle can't have good objectively.
So if you don't even know if there is good or not, why do you say things are good?
It's my preference to.
So in other words, you admit you don't have an objective standard, and you use a subjective one in
No, I
place of an
don't.
objective one.
I'm sorry, I don't know if I have one, right? There are things that I say are good and I might think that are objective, but I'm not willing to defend them here, right? I'm
I don't
just
think you're able to
asking
defend
you
it.
for the I'm just asking you for the argument that in principle
No,
it's
what
not
we're doing, Seth.
possible for hold on, let me finish my question, right? I'm asking you for the argument why an atheist in principle can't have an objective good. Can I have that?
What I was asking is, since everybody's been asking me questions roughly 2 hours or so in rapid fire and multiple and stuff like that, I thought it'd be nice for a change if I could ask questions of an atheist. Seth, you come right in and start firing questions at me. I would like to be able to cross-examine an atheist on the nature and essence of what good is as an exercise. If you guys don't want to do that, and
said
then
I'm willing.
No, Vic
and
will
if
do
you
it.
if you don't want to do it and all you want to do is question me, well, I think that's
We'll
not
get you
fair.
somebody.
I'd
We
like
got
to
you
hear
somebody.
Vic do it.
More
Yeah,
than
Vic,
willing.
let Vic do it. Let Vic do it.
Yeah, let's just have a, I'm not out to get you. I'm not out to make you look bad.
Fair is
I think
only
it'd be a good
fair.
exercise.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
that's fine.
Vic.
Fair enough.
Oh, who am I talking to? Who's going
You're
to do
talking
this?
to Vic.
Vic,
Vic.
defend moral naturalism against Matt Slick. That's what we're.
Well,
That's the
well,
challenge.
actually, don't think moral naturalism is the right view, but I think theistic moral realism that takes the first horn of the Euthyphro is a
Can we
moral
just-
naturalist view.
Can we just ask about good?
Second
No.
one.
You have to defend a view. And Hades for the good. And I thought
Well,
it would probably be best if you did it in a realist sense. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
try to defend.
But it doesn't have to be moral naturalism. I could.
It doesn't have to be moral naturalism, but defend a realist position of morality. Okay, let him critique you.
Okay. What's the argument they have to defend against?
Matt just wants to ask you questions.
He's just going to ask you questions Socratically about your meta ethic, and you're going to defend some form of realism
Okay.
as an atheist.
Okay.
All right, we're ready, Matt. Go ahead.
Not exactly.
Who am I talking to then?
Vic.
His name is Vic.
Okay, Vic.
His name is okay.
His name is Vic.
Vic,
My
are
name
you
is
an
Vic.
atheist?
Yeah, I am.
Does good exist?
Yeah.
Can you tell me what good is?
It's the categorical moral norm.
Can you define what you mean by categorical moral norm?
It's a reason that we have to do certain things that's independent of your intentional states, that is your aims. Or
How
desires.
could a reason be independent of our intention?
How could it be dependent or how could it be independent?
Independent.
Well, I mean, the idea is that you shouldn't torture babies for pleasure, even if you didn't desire not to torture babies for pleasure.
Is it wrong to torture babies just simply for your pleasure, which is what I asked Dan Barker in our debate, but is it?
Yeah, presumably.
Why is it? Okay, so it's morally wrong then. It's not good. It's morally wrong. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Mhm.
Why? Why is it morally wrong?
I think it's irreducible.
Okay, that doesn't answer the question. Why is it morally wrong?
I don't really understand the question.
What is wrong about doing it? What is the moral aspect of wrongness on it? Why is that particular action by nature morally wrong and not good?
Well, it instantiates the moral property of wrongness.
What is wrongness?
Just you ought not do it property.
Why? So wrongness is what you ought not do. So what you ought not do is wrong.
Yeah.
So that circular tautologist doesn't help me one bit.
Well, I told you that it's irreducible.
So you say it's irreducible by a tautology, which means basically your argument is bankrupt at this point. You have no way of determining what is and is not good other than to say, I can't argue it any further and I'm done.
Wow, that was quick.
So when you asked in virtue of what was it wrong, right? You didn't ask for a justification for the claim that it was
Yes,
wrong.
I did. I said, why is it?
I thought you were asking for what metaphysically grounds the wrongness of it.
What metaphysically grounds the wrongness in torturing babies to death merely for your personal pleasure?
Right, I would appeal to mind independent normative property.
A normative property of a moral statement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, no, not of the statement. It's presumably of the state of affairs.
I suppose there's a moral
Or-
property to a state of affairs.
Mm-hmm.
So if I drop a tennis ball from my hand down to the carpet, is it a moral action?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Well, I mean, you could be like killing somebody by doing it.
No, it's just on the carpet. I sit on the carpet, just dropping on the carpet. Okay.
Yeah, then probably not.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Do you agree with the statement? It is always wrong to torture babies to death merely excuse me. It is always wrong for anyone to torture babies to death merely for their personal pleasure.
I don't think so. Oh, what? Well, merely for their person.
Merely for their personal pleasure. It's always wrong for anyone to torture babies to death merely for their personal pleasure. Is that universally true or is it not true?
I think it depends because there might be situations in which it was morally permissible.
Okay, can you give me an example of a situation that you would support where it's morally the right thing to do to torture a baby to death merely for your personal pleasure?
Well, so if you construe it, when you say merely for your personal pleasure, you're just by definition construing that there are no moral reasons to do it. Then I guess I would have to say no, right? But that just seems like a definitional claim. That just seems like a tautology.
So what you're saying then is there is no moral quality to it when it's merely for that person's pleasure. So it's okay then because there's no moral value.
No, because I'm saying that it would be necessarily wrong if you construe it that way. Because the way you're construing it
Why
is
is it?
that when you say merely for their pleasure, you're saying there are no moral reasons to counteract, right?
I
So
didn't
there's
say that.
no reasons to do it.
I didn't say it. The reason person is torturing a baby to death is for his personal pleasure. Now, if the statement is it's always wrong for anyone, which means it's a universal statement. It's a universal moral absolute, always wrong moral issue for anyone, all people, past, present, future, to torture babies to death merely for their personal pleasure. The reason they're doing it is for their personal pleasure.
I think that's an exception.
I don't think there are any actions like that, right? Like, let's take something like, I don't know, the fundamental, like a right to life or something.
Now, stick with the statement I offered.
There's no action such that
This is a one-on-one, so
not do it.
comments are not.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's any action such that you always ought to do or you always ought not to do.
So then then you disagree with the statement's universal applicability to all people. In other words, you're saying that there are times when it's right because the issue has morality in it by the word wrong. So you're saying there are times when it's okay for people to torture babies to death simply because it's their pleasure to do.
Well, again, when you say simply because, I don't know what you're saying there. If you're excluding times in which there are other reasons to torture a baby.
Let me go over the sentence again.
What's going on?
It's always wrong for anyone. That's time and all people. Always wrong. Wrong has a moral value. To torture babies to death merely. And what that word means is for the simple reason of their personal pleasure. The statement's true or it's not true in your worldview. What is it?
Well, again, it's tricky, right? Because it seems like there could be certain situations in which torturing the baby would be morally required.
Okay, and you keep moving the goalposts. I guess you're not listening to the sentence. Dan Barker had a problem with it as well. I constructed this certain way. I wasn't planning to bring this up in our discussion, but it went right down that avenue. It's always wrong for anyone moral, to torture babies to death merely or because of, just for that reason, their personal pleasure. It's either the statement's either true or it's not the case that it's true. If you say it's universally true, then you're advocating an objective universal moral standard. Then I'd have questions about that. If you're to say it's not true, then I'm going to ask you again, give me an instance where it's morally the right thing to do for all people anywhere to torture babies to death merely for their personal pleasure. And you're stuck either way.
I'm not seeing the dilemma.
Well,
is it just yes or no, man?
Yes or no? What is it?
Is
Always
it true or not, or is it not true that it is wrong to murder and torture babies just for the pleasure?
Well, I think there could be situations constructed in which you ought to torture the baby.
So
okay,
the
and I
answer is
asked
no.
you, I ask you, yeah.
Faceless,
that's
shut
what he's
up.
saying. Yeah, he's saying no. But I've asked you then give me an instance.
So there may be some
Well,
purpose.
what
There
if,
may be
like,
some.
I don't know, the fate of the world rested on whether you tortured the baby for pleasure? Or something?
That's not what the sentence says. It's only for their personal pleasure. That's all it is.
Well, no, I'm saying, so if you don't torture the baby for pleasure, then the
That's
fate
not
of
what the sentence is.
that I don't know what you're saying there, right? Are you
Right, but
saying
the
that?
fate of
Are you
the fate
saying
of
the situation is otherwise featureless, or what's going on there? Because
It
you're
is
saying in
always
all
wrong. The
situations.
statement. It is always wrong for anyone. That's every situation conceivable, every possible one.
Mm-hmm.
It's always wrong for anyone. Wrong moral value. To torture babies to death merely is a simple word of saying simply because of or for the purpose of the personal pleasure.
Well, again, you could have a situation in which, if you don't torture the baby for pleasure, then the fate of the world.
That's not the sentence. It's not the sentence. The sentence
I don't
is
know what you're
for
talking about.
personal pleasure, and what you do is you take the sentence, ignore it, reconstruct it, and then try and answer a different sentence.
No,
Answer the actual sentence, not what I did not say.
So, hey, Vic, I think you
when you
did give an answer. You said that it was definitional, right, Vic? You said that he's pretty.
Yeah, look, I told him he could be asking the question in two ways, right? He could be saying, if the only reason not to do that you're torturing a baby and there are no other reasons to do it, then obviously it's just a tautology that you shouldn't torture the baby for pleasure, right?
There are things that
Hold
you
on,
can.
hold
is
on.
it
One at a
always
time, please.
the case?
It's not a tautologist
I've been
issue.
trying
It's a
to. I've been
moral
trying to
issue.
get something out for a few
Saying
minutes.
that it's always the case is saying something like under any circumstance.
That's what it
would be the
means.
case.
Always
So it could
wrong
be the
for
case
anyone.
that there's an unintended.
But then I just gave him a
There could be
circumstance in
moral.
which it was okay, right? And then you just said that's not what I'm talking about. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Well,
You
how
don't
about
understand.
we put forward a hypothetical situation where you and a baby are inside of
pleasure.
A white room, and let's say you're
Oh fuck.
and let's say you
I don't
can torture
know.
that baby.
I don't think you're
only
gonna
for
help at
pleasure.
all.
Would it be moral?
Well, that's not what the sentence is. The sentence is purposely constructed to be difficult for non-theists.
Wait, are you saying that you're I think what he's saying is something like, is it morally permissible to rape or a baby simply for pleasure? Let's just say for no other reason.
I'd say we actually do that for
So,
pay.
yeah, I said for the reason. It's a very difficult sentence when you really start
Right.
analyzing.
Well, then at that point, it's just vacuous.
It's not
So then
vacuous.
your intention is to cause problems for non-theists, right?
So
No,
you could have bad intentions and have unintended moral consequences.
No,
right?
look, wait. Let's just let him clarify because I don't think you guys are understanding what he's talking about either.
We talked
I
about
think
the
it's a pretty
issue
simple
of what
question.
good is. And in an atheist worldview, how do you tell us and define properly that's universally applicable what goodness is so that when it's spoken of, others would say, yeah, that's what goodness is. But you see, goodness is attitudinal. So, Vic, let's say you and I are talking about this, and I just reach up and slap you, pretty hard. Is it good or is it not good? Well, if you're just beating me to death in an argument, I don't like it, and that's how I want to respond. Well, that's not good. If there's a deadly spider on your cheek about ready to bite you, and I slapped it to save you, then it's good. The exact same action has different moral values based on the intention. Morality is intentionality, among other things. In an atheist universe where there is no supreme being, and there are different kinds of atheists, but how do you have universal intentionality in an action that 100 people might do in a day? You can't have a universal intention that's applicable to everybody because intentionality requires cognition, mind, personhood. This is a problem in the atheistic perspective. And so when I talk to atheists about this, what I think happens, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but I think happens is that they get to the same place where Vic, in my opinion, got, and they're not able to distinguish between the concept and the action, and they blend them and they conflate them. And I'm
No,
saying that
I
there's
was.
are actual actions that are ontologically wrong. But you see, the problem with me saying it that way is it wouldn't make sense from a Christian perspective to say that an action itself is ontologically wrong, because then what we'd be saying from a Christian perspective is God is responding to an ontological right or wrong action, and then he's submitting to that. Part of the Euthyphro dilemma. But that's
Yeah.
not really the position that we hold. We would say that it is always wrong for anyone is a universal standard dealing with intentionality of the reason merely for their personal pleasure of torturing babies to death. The reason we would say from a Christian perspective that the universality of that action is wrong is because the universal intention of God's transcendent being is the reason that we will know that that action is wrong. When you atheists, I would go so far to say, when you atheists would say, well, it's wrong, I would say you're borrowing from my worldview in order to say that this thing is universally wrong, but you can't have universal moral absolutes in an atheist worldview. See
I
the
don't think
point?
any of that makes any sense, right? Like even the action in question, it doesn't make sense to say that any action is always wrong. Like what does that even mean, right? Like I was giving an example of like killing somebody, that's going to be right, right? If it's in self-defense or something, right? Or like your own
Correct.
right to life, that you should preserve your life.
Unless it's babies
There
in the
might be
womb, but
some
yeah.
altruistic act in which you should like jump on a grenade or whatever. And the case of raping a baby for pleasure, right? Well, there might be a case in which one ought to rape the baby purely for self-pleasure if, conditional on, if he doesn't rape the baby fully for self-pleasure, then the world will end, right? So we might
See, the
consider
thing
that
is,
as
that's
a
not what the
world.
sentence is, and you misrepresented it because I talked about plurality, which is universality, and you talked about singularity, which is subjectivism.
I
You
don't think
changed
that
it.
follows.
Okay, it is always wrong for everyone is an objective, universal, transcendent implication. Always wrong for everyone
I don't know what that
to
means.
torture babies to death merely for the personal pleasure. This is the statement. And then so I would ask atheists, is the statement true or is it not true?
No, again, right? You ought to torture the baby for pleasure if like the fate of the world rests on it.
It doesn't, the sentence doesn't say that.
Well then,
This is
I don't know if
exactly where you're
so then
butting your head. Your
what are you talking
atheism,
about
I
is being-
believe, is not allowing you to look at what it says for what it says. You have to keep changing it.
What are you talking about? Look,
They
when you
just
say
answer the question, man. I mean, it is just a statement. Just answer the statement, not
Hey,
the
tasteless.
you know.
I think
other
he.
thing.
I think it's
So-
he's offered. You've offered two things, right, Vic? You've offered either it runs into this definitional problem, or you have like a conditional that you need to unpack. So you have answered it. You just identified the two like horns of a dilemma that
yeah, like look,
arise.
No,
so
he
there,
didn't.
there could
He
be
didn't answer
one
it.
thing that he's saying, right? He could be saying that the only relevant feature is the feature of torturing a baby for self-pleasure, but then it's just vacuous, right? Because obviously, if that's the only morally relevant feature, then yeah, it's going to be wrong at all times. But the point is that when you say it's always the case, then you're including the possibility that there could be other morally relevant features and such that those could counteract, what you take to be relevant in that case. So I don't think there's any feature such that it always has the same moral relevance across all possible cases. So the concept of something always being wrong is just incoherent. There's not going to be any action such that it's always wrong to do.
How do
It
you
doesn't
know?
even mean anything.
How do you know that there's, you said it's incomprehensible or incoherent because there's no action that's always. You're just making a universal truth statement and making a universal moral value. You just refute yourself.
Well, I think this is just a particularism versus generalism debate, right? For whatever
No.
principle that you give, because this isn't a realism, anti-realism debate. This is the particularism, generalism.
Wait a minute. I just showed that you were refuting yourself and you just
How was that?
ignored it. You made a universal truth statement about morality. You said there is no instance, I forget exact wording,
Yeah.
ever where it would always be wrong. You're making a universal moral statement.
Yeah,
To
that's not
say
a-
there aren't any universal moral statements, it's self-refuting.
No, that wasn't a universal moral statement.
Yes, it was. The way you said it was. I
No,
jumped on it right away.
a universal moral statement is like an affirmation that there is some action X such that that action is always wrong or always right. So I'm denying that there are universal morals. I'm not. It's not a
It is
universal.
always wrong for anyone to torture babies to death merely for their personal pleasure. Is that universal? Is that a universal statement about morality? First of all, is it a statement that obtains universality and absoluteness?
No,
Whether
that
it's
doesn't
true or
make any
not.
sense.
What?
It doesn't make any sense.
Okay. Well, you can say it doesn't make any sense, but I think what's happening is you're stuck. You're simply stuck, and you're trying to find ways. And the way that I know that you're stuck is because each time you've represented a sentence back to me, you've changed it.
What did I change it to? I'm not understanding.
Matt, do you mind if I clarify how I see? Like, I see it as he said, well, if we construe your sentence literally, exactly as you've given it, then you have this issue. It's a definitional issue that he starts out with. But if we do change it, like what you're about to criticize, then the issue becomes complicated. We need to unpack it. So he has addressed the sentence literally as you've given it, but he's also emphasized that there's ways you would need to unpack it in a way such that it wouldn't be like moral realism. It wouldn't be an absolute universal. Is that does that make sense, Vic? Did I?
Well, I wouldn't say that it wouldn't be moral realism. That's perfectly compatible with moral realism. The only claim is that, look, that can't be the only feature of a situation. That it just doesn't make sense for that to be the only feature, right? The only feature is that you're torturing a baby for pleasure. Like, what does that even mean, right? There are going to be other features of
You
the
don't know what that
situation.
means?
No, it is just meaningless, right?
You
There are
don't
going
know
to be
what that
other
means?
features.
Well, no,
You don't
but
know what
there
it
could be
means
a
to torture a
sadist out
baby
there
to
that wants
death?
to torture a baby.
Okay, let me give an example of what it might be talking about
Saying,
that.
right, that there are always going to be other features of the situation.
For example,
and what those features are going to change the moral relevance of this feature.
All right, I think we should move on because this is the. I get this with different atheists at different time where it just becomes, I don't know, semantic jargon and blurring.
I'd like to give
glorification.
I'd like to give an example where Vic's.
The proposition.
Yeah, the example.
I'd like to give an example.
Is it the biblical example? Because I just wondered if Matt would agree that it would be good to do this to babies for pleasure if God said to. Correct?
No.
Oh, what? If God told you to do it for pleasure, it would be wrong?
No, it's a statement aimed at atheists, but it would never be applicable in the Christian worldview.
Wow, that I don't understand that.
Because goodness and morality is based on the character of God, and what we've seen in his revelation, he would never advocate such an action. He would speak to the contrary.
Binding of Isaac.
How do you know God's mind and intentions in that way?
We read the scriptures. Binding of Isaac, you want me to talk about what that is?
But wait, okay. So, but let's.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about a computer game right now.
I think you can just be. You can.
Wait. You guys bring stuff up, and
generalist
I want to
view.
respond, and then you say I don't want to respond. I just want to be able to take a shot, but I don't want to any match response on it.
Why'd you bring up a Bible verse? He can talk about that all night.
Forget
Matt,
Bibles and stuff. But I was gonna say that regarding that situation, I could take the
Which
moral
situation?
about the torturing a baby for pleasure thing. I could take a generalist view, right, and say that it is a moral principle that you ought not torture babies for pleasure, and therefore, in all cases, you ought not torture babies for pleasure.
So then you're making a conclusion based on a presupposition and assumption to begin with.
What were you
He's
saying?
saying that.
What starts the verification?
Hold on,
of the
wait.
initial
I
assumption?
want to see what Johnny Walker was saying.
He's saying that the particularism generalism dispute is orthogonal to the realism anti-realism dispute, right? So nothing important turns on whether Vic is a particularist or a generalist, right? Because he could be either one and still be a realist, right? Whereas what's at issue is whether realism is possible.
Jack, you might want to explain what you mean by orthogonal, because I think he's confused by
Well, I
that.
just mean that the dispute about whether he's a particularist or a generalist is logically independent of whether there are moral facts or not, right? So he could believe that there are moral facts, which is the realist view, right? Whether or not he was a generalist or a particularist, right? He could be either one. He could be a generalist realist, or he could be a particularist realist. So if you object to particularism, right, that doesn't show that there can't be realism on atheism, right?
Yeah. So basically what I was saying is the reason I was running into confusion with what you were saying is because I don't understand what generalism really amounts to, right? But I could take their view sort of as a counterpossible view and try to see what objections you would have that wouldn't just be particularist objections.
In other words, he could just play the part of an atheist generalist, right? And so whatever objections you're making to his particularist view wouldn't apply.
Yeah, but I don't think those are objections to a particularist view. I think you were just saying that particularism isn't generalism, which isn't really an objection.
I just learned something from you guys.
I also think that whenever somebody says that God is the reason we have morality,
Well,
they're
what
just
did you
not
learn,
taking the
Matt
real.
Flick?
Well, that's not nice. But,
Is
Don't
it
worry about
relevant
it,
to the
man.
topic?
We're big boys. We can take it.
Nobody
Just
thinks
say
you are
it.
passive aggressive, Slick. Just say it.
Everybody is an idolater, and the atheists' idolatry, they bow and serve philosophy.
So you need to repent or perish.
So does this?
But hang on, Matt. Given that you learned that from
Wait,
us, then like we
why does so
review
many
that.
other people do
Why are you coming in? You just interrupted someone. Go ahead, Johnny.
No, I was just saying that not all atheists are into philosophy, and there are plenty
That's true.
I'm sure there are plenty of Christian philosophy idolaters, right? They must exist. And
Oh yes, they do. I know one or two. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I know a few too.
I know a lot.
Right. So, Matt, so like if I were to say yes, it's a general moral principle that you shouldn't torture babies for pleasure, right? And I would say that it's because this all these state of affairs share a particular property, right, which is the mind-independent wrongness property. Why would that be a position that is incoherent or that it's
Because you're assigning a moral value to certain actions, and it's rather arbitrary. You're just stating that the fact is that they have certain moral properties, not justifying why any particular action has one. That's why.
I don't I don't understand your criticism there. What do you mean?
I just said it. You say, I'm not trying to misrepresent you, but basically you say, well, a certain action just generally has a moral property of right and wrongness. Really?
it sounds like a grounding objection.
Yeah, it's just, you're just saying it's what it is. Well, if you're going to say that, then I can say, well, God exists because God exists, and we're done. You know, you say, well, it has a moral property because it has a moral property. That doesn't
He's
mean
asking you why ought we not to torture babies?
I mean, I don't understand what the question is, right? Are you asking does the state of affair is it a metaphysical question or an epistemological question? Because if it's an epistemological question, then first of all, it seems irrelevant to whether there are metaphysical issues with atheist moral realism, right? The epistemological issues are just going to be sort of orthogonal or brushed off to the side. If it's a metaphysical question, then there's nothing incoherent about there being moral properties instantiated in a particular state of affairs.
Let me ask it this way: how do you know that killing?
It's just like there being color properties instantiated in an object that you're perceiving, right?
How do you know that not killing babies is a moral property?
That's an epistemic issue, right? That's what we're trying to clarify. We thought that what was at issue was that on atheism, right, there couldn't be a metaphysically coherent picture of moral realism, right? You couldn't be a moral realist if you were an atheist, right?
And let
'Cause
me
there's
rephrase
some-
it. Why do you think killing babies is wrong?
And
Guys
that's
are
an
doing this-
epistemic.
Yeah, that's epistemological.
That's an epistemic issue, right? And we didn't think that was what was under dispute, right? Is that atheists can't know what the moral facts are, right? We thought that the issue was that there couldn't be moral facts at all.
We're not saying that. He's not saying that. He's
atheism were
asking
true.
what's the reason.
Did
Look,
you hear the last thing he said? Did you hear the last thing he said?
I didn't. I'd like Jack to repeat that.
Yeah.
I was saying that we thought that what was at issue was that if atheism were true, there couldn't be moral facts. Not that what moral facts there were unknowable, right? Which is an epistemic.
So what's Matt Slick's response to that?
Sorry, I was kind of tuning out. You guys started going
We're just
yourself
waiting
and.
for other people to jump in so that you don't have to respond.
Saying was.
Well, wait. So I don't have to run. Excuse me. I've been typing in. I need to go in 15 minutes and in 10 minutes. And my wife and I spend time together. And she's been going through trauma this year, medically, physically.
it's
And
okay.
she needs her husband next to her
So do
in
you
the
have a
evenings to
response?
relax.
Guys,
If that's
please
okay.
stop. I don't understand.
Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah, that's great, Matt. Thank you for your time. Can I just say one thing? You've been very gracious, Matt, and you've been a good sport. I just want to say one thing, and I mean this kindly. Your wife is exceptionally beautiful. You're a very lucky man.
She is, and let me tell you that when we were dating, seriously, no joke, guys are looking at me like, "What the heck? How'd you do that?" And the girls are looking at her girlfriends are going, "Look at him. It looks like he's been mauled by a pack of large dogs."
Oh, you're not a bad-looking
Hey,
man,
Matt, if that isn't the best argument for the existence of God, I don't know what is.
Well, I do say God predestined her to be married to me because, I mean, she wouldn't have picked me normally. But hey, look, guys, if you want to know the secret, I can tell you the secret. I know how to get women, good-looking women.
Jesus.
I want to know.
I want to know the secret.
You can go to Amazon and you look up a book titled, this is no joke, it's a joke, but it's no joke. Look it up, my name, I'm the author. How to Woo and Win Women by Being an Obnoxious Jerk.
The best way to sell your book.
You wrote that book?
Yeah, it's in there, yeah.
I actually want that.
I'm serious.
If I send it to you, will you autograph it?
Yes, I would definitely do that.
All right, Matt. I find you very obnoxious, but I sort of want to date you.
Well, Matt,
still wanna date me? Well, I'm already
it's
taken.
nice to see you. I don't see you often, but when I do, it's nice to see you.
Danny got the wrong book for Christmas.
That was going to be my book title.
Look, here it is. I'll put the URL in the text there for you. You guys can just go look it up, but there it is. And I don't promote. I just wrote it for fun, and I don't do anything with it, and so it doesn't get promoted at all. Or
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
The next. Go ahead.
Sorry.
You're fine.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just interrupted you because I got a thought. I wrote another book called Atheistica.
Oh.
And
It's actually.
you guys might be interested in reading it. It's a novella, and right now I'm working on a science fiction novella, a horror novella for fun.
How many copies did you sell on that one?
Which one?
The second one you just mentioned, not the first one.
The Atheistica?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I just write things. I like it. I don't promote it. I just whatever. I just like to write. I'm a writer.
666 copies.
How many?
666 copies.
Right. You're joking.
Can I ask you, why are you calling it a novella? Did you write it in Spanish or something?
You know what? This is
No,
a key question I wanted to know too. Yeah.
Why are you calling it a novella?
It means a short novel.
It's a
I
short
know.
You just call it a short novel. Why are you calling it novella?
It's an English term. You guys are killing me.
Novella means little novel.
Okay, so why not call it a well, no,
Because we
novella.
can use one word, BB.
It's an English word.
It's a real word. That's what it is. It's a novella. I have a full-blown novel called The Influence.
And we call full-blown novels full-blown novels.
That's what
You
we call
realize
it.
English commandeers the words off like every language.
Yes, it does. That's why it has over 600,000 words in it.
That's
I'll be
why
there in
it's
5
so
minutes,
great.
hon. Okay.
And we keep making up more and more idiomatic expressions.
That's right.
Every day, like meme
Yeah.
and troll.
Hold on, Matt. You should go with your wife. Actually, if we're holding you up, go with your wife.
Thank you for your time, Matt.
No, I got 5 minutes. She said no problem. I just read a review on the How to Woo and Win Women book. Sexist. Just read the sample. Was disgusted in my opinion. This is a very sexist book. Women's are toys. I
Oh my
love it.
goodness.
It's awesome. I think it's funny. I actually talked to a friend of mine, and this is for real. He got the book. He's cracking up because it's so full of stupidity. And he said he was dating this girl, and they were talking over the phone. And I think he wrote the review too. And he was telling me what happened. He goes, I started reading some of the book to her. And I'm thinking that's a mistake. And she got offended by it, and she wouldn't date him anymore. I was totally cracking up. It's not. It's not against women at all. If anything, it's against the guys. I just say stupid things in there. That's all.
But she thought it wasn't good.
No, most people think it's funny. Most people get a kick out of it and
wrong.
laugh. Yeah, she did. But
I wonder if it was right or wrong.
It's like girl logic, what girl logic is, and then I have a chapter. You can read it for yourself, see if it's funny. I actually sent it to a publisher years and years ago, and they said that they passed a manuscript around the office, and everyone was reading it and cracking up, and they loved it. They said, send it back next year, and we'll publish it.
Hey, Matt Slick.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, how old are you? I'm just curious.
62.
Okay, so I guess you kind of you formed this idea on the female psyche from your teenage days, right?
No, I have a good sense of humor, guys.
How long have you been married? I've been married for 26 years.
32 years.
Cool.
I have a good sense of humor, and I joke around. All my friends know it, and I insult people, and when they insult me, if it's funny, I will totally crack up. Love it. I don't have any problem with that. It's just I have a good sense of humor.
Yeah, I
Use it
did
on
that
the
a couple
radio.
of times. It's kind of dangerous.
What's
So Matt, I'm hoping the next time you're here, I can debate you. I want to prove to you that Islam is the one and only true religion.
Oh, love to have that.
Yeah.
Are you a Muslim?
Yes.
I would love to debate that because I can show you why Islam is false. And just go
And
to Surah
I'd love to show
354.
you why Christianity is false as well. So.
Oh, well, we want to go with logical coherence. I'll show you why it's false. You want to do that next time? When do you want to do that?
That will be fun.
Yeah, sure. We can have a formal debate, and we can have a moderator like Tasteless Mod, and
probably.
Well, I'm actually trying. No. We'll have a discussion. But if you know who Shadi Lewis is?
No.
Okay, he's a Muslim apologist, and I'm trying to set up a debate with him, a third one, on which is superior in soteriology, Christianity or Islam, and which is be great debate. He agreed, but I can't get a hold of him now. But if you want to go through, what specific thing do you want to debate me on out of Islam?
So the thing here is, the majority of people that I debate on Islam, they kind of have this general notion that every single Muslim they debate accepts the hadith. If you're familiar with what the hadith is, right?
Do you accept the hadith, Qudsi hadith?
Of course, I don't even accept any of the hadiths because I'm a Quranist.
Okay, you're a Quranist. That's fine. We'll just go to Surah 354, talk about makhara, and then we can see how you do with taqiyya.
And the thing is, most of my debates are on specific verses, and I don't even debate these verses with non-Muslims. I'm usually debating these verses with
Smeagol, if I sorry to interrupt you, but if I can just make one comment, please do not hold on, Seamus.
Very well.
Please do not, whatever you do, don't start telling him you're not pronouncing things correctly. That's the only thing I beg you not to do.
Okay, no, it makes sense, and you have to pronounce things correctly in some situations because the problem is if you're debating someone and you mispronounce a word that represents another definition, that can pose a problem. And even you can agree with me, Matt, right?
Absolutely, which is why
Yeah,
I said Surah 354.
exactly.
You
Surah
just have
354, which for you guys, what it means in Arabic is that Allah is the greatest of deceivers. But I have.
And we're going to have to we're going to have to look at the verses, and like I was saying before I was cut off, the majority of people that I debate on the Quran specifically are Sunni Muslims, and I feel like Sunni Muslims actually hate me more than Christians do. And it makes sense.
What do you want to debate? What do you want to have a topic as a debate? The coherence of the which is the true God, Allah or Yahweh?
I don't really want to limit it to just one topic, honestly. I just want to see how it's going to go. We can just.
Then what do you want to talk about?
We'll see at the time. I don't want to set like any. I don't want to set any rules right now because I don't know
we
what's going.
look, I don't go that way. What do you want
Give
to
him a
talk
chance
about?
to prepare, man.
I mean, you have to give me a chance to see. You know, I want to look over what kind of individual you are. You know, I don't know what you know about Islam, so that's the issue.
I know it's false. I know Allah is a false god.
I mean, we
know
can debate
Muhammad
like
is a
we can
false
debate the
prophet.
Please,
hadith.
everyone.
First of all, Matt, you're gonna want a topic with this guy, or he'll change the goalpost.
That's right. I can tell that already. I don't trust
Stop it. Don't start smearing people.
Yeah, well, you don't start smearing people before the debate has even started, buddy.
What do you want to? What's the topic? Give me a topic.
I'm really interested in debating maybe the hadith if you're knowledgeable about the hadith or
I'm
just
not
the
very
Quran in
knowledgeable.
general.
I don't know. Let's talk about a concept because do you speak Arabic?
Yeah, I speak Arabic fluently and write it.
Okay, so then I would be at a humongous disadvantage, wouldn't I, trying to go through the Arabic with you and the Quran, right?
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, you can use the English translations, but the problem with the English translations is sometimes you have to reference the Arabic in order to be able to understand it properly, and that's a huge problem.
Was there tafsir you recognize and acknowledge?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Tafsir commentaries.
Yeah, well, yeah, tafsir, and even with tafsir, I'm not very good at that. I mean, there's a few members in here that are, but I mean, I'm pretty decent with tafsir.
Okay, well, you
but
see,
we can.
we got to come up with something that both of us could do, because unfortunately, it's just a reality. I don't speak Arabic.
Exactly.
I know people who do speak Arabic who would gladly take a piece of you.
Exactly, and that's why I didn't want to tell you the specific topic because I don't know what you're capable of. I don't know what you know about Islam.
Let's work out real fast. How about the coherence of the God of Islam, or who's a superior moral person, Muhammad or Jesus? I mean, things like that. Which is superior for salvation, Islam or?
This question is going to be very good, man.
Sure.
So
I
let's
mean,
move it, man.
how about this? You can choose the topic, choose multiple topics, and we can discuss them in order, and we can talk about them.
How about this one? Who's a better? I'm going to use the word prophet because Jesus has three offices: prophet, priest, and king. Who's a better prophet for their religion, Muhammad or Jesus?
For which religion? Well, of course, the religion of Islam, because you guys don't consider Jesus a prophet.
Yeah, I just said in Christianity, Jesus has three offices: prophet, priest, and king. We don't say that he's only a prophet in the sense that Muslims do.
Exactly. So at least for me, of course, I'm going to say Prophet Muhammad. And the reason I'm not going to go into the reasons because it's going to take a bit too long, and I don't know if you have to leave here soon.
That seems odd to say that Jesus is a prophet, but
prophet, he has.
This is the first time that I've heard this too. Yeah, I've never met a Christian that said that Jesus is a prophet according to Christianity.
I know what Christian theology teaches, and he has three offices: prophet, priest, and king. So let me illustrate it. God's in heaven, we're down on earth. A prophet is in between them. A prophet speaks downward from God to men. A priest would take the place in between them. He's in the middle. And a priest speaks to God on behalf of men. Prophet, priest, okay? So the offices that he holds. In that sense, he proclaims and relates to us the word of God. And this is what he would do through the revelation of the New Testament. And in the priesthood, he offers up himself as a high priest at the order of Melchizedek, Hebrews 5, 6, and 7. As far as king goes, well, that's just an eschatological issue of the coming kingdom, all-mill, post-mill, pre-mill, all that stuff, his kingship and things like that. So that's good, proper biblical theology.
So do you believe that in Christianity that God represents himself through Jesus physically?
Yes.
Okay.
Does God represent himself in Islam through the Quran physically?
Let's save it for
no,
the
that's not
conversation.
true.
So why don't you guys try to make a day and time and carve out some time? A Sunday
Just tomorrow
would be great.
Tomorrow would be good.
I can't tomorrow. I'm not going to be on for the entire day because I have work and then I have to go to this dinner party. So
why don't you two actually hash this out in DMs? You know how to use your DMs yet? Yeah, you know how to use that.
Yeah, I know. I'll PM you and we'll figure out a time and date, and then I'll also invite a few other people who are knowledgeable about Islam, and if you also want to invite a few people.
Matt,
wait a minute.
Quick,
So you mean wait a minute? So then, are you saying then that they're going to be assisting you? in your debate
No,
against?
not assisting me. I just, if there's something that we need to be educated on that we're not aware of, then they can join in and contribute.
Well, just so you know, I need a topic. If I don't have a topic, we don't do it.
We're gonna. I will
in
give you a
DMs.
topic for sure before this happens. Like, we're not gonna go into this not knowing what the topic is, basically.
Right, and then you want to do it here in this room so people can. No, they
Matt Slick.
interrupt too much.
Matt.
Yeah.
Matt, speaking of that, Matt, me and our guys, so we have proper moderation and stuff. I sent you a DM to a link to our server. Where,
Wow, that's
we
really
can-
interesting.
That's very
So if I
Mary.
want to go and listen to you guys debate, how can I do that if you're going to do it on another server and then you guys all
You
get
can't-
together?
Yeah,
I want to go to the debate.
That's not
so
going to happen. That's not going to happen. It's going to happen here. Don't worry.
Well, the problem with having it here is
You're cutting out, Joe.
Yeah.
it's easier
can't
to
hear you,
do this.
Jovan.
It's easier to do this on Pal Talk.
Yeah, Matt. If
Yeah.
nothing else, somebody from here will get in touch with the DMs too. If for some reason you can't
the
talk
moderation
with,
here is complete.
Smeagol.
What's a DM?
Direct message.
Direct message, DM, a private message, PM,
However
however
you
you
want to
want.
access them.
Well,
Like an IM.
you and I talked in DM already, Matt.
Yeah, but I clicked on things and then I arrive at them.
Remember, you go up to the top left.
Top
You go up to that top left smiley face thing, and
Yeah,
then
thanks.
scroll down. Those are
Yeah.
your DMs.
Jesus,
Those
this
are all
is,
DMs that have numbers next to them.
this is making a Discord for my dad. All
Remember,
over.
you click on that thing. in the
Okay,
top
well, which
left.
one are you, or who's gonna?
I'm
Oh, well, I'll figure it out.
I'm JJ actually. In DMs, I'm JJ.
Okay.
That's my actual account name. I wanted to ask you though, real quick. Do you consider all non-Christians to be atheists?
No.
Because you think that they worship a real God, or they worship a God that's not a real God, or?
My standard definition of what an atheist is someone who believes there's God. I know there's variations in that, but that's a standard definition.
So to you, I would be considered like agnostic.
I don't know who you are, what you are.
Well, if he's a Muslim.
So yeah, I'm a Muslim. So to you, I believe in a God.
You believe
but-
a God exists. You're definitely not an atheist or an agnostic.
Okay.
You're just wrong, and you're going to end up going to hell.
You're just worshiping a false God.
You worship a false God. Yeah, Islam teaches a false God. Absolutely. I
You
can show
believe
you
in a
why the
God
God
that's
of
not
Islam
real.
is incoherent.
Are they the same gods instead of the Abrahamic religion?
I mean, why would anybody want, inshallah? Why would anybody want to?
I mean,
risk
Matt, not being
salvation?
funny,
I
but
don't
you're
get
just
it.
1 degree away from becoming an atheist. You know that.
So
No, that's an insult to me. Actually, when people say it to me, that's an insult. There's
Matt,
not.
don't be insulted. I just said words. Come down.
I'm not 1 degree away from becoming an atheist. Possible for me to be an atheist.
Okay.
Just to
You were one already.
Just to educate you on the origins of inshallah, it's more tradition and than anything. Like in the word inshallah in itself, it's not something that's mandated for Muslims to say through the Quran or even the Hadith.
I know that.
Yeah.
It's just a phrase that means if Allah wills. And I was talking in the serial sense. In Islam, ladies and gentlemen, you don't even know if you're going to make it to heaven because, inshallah, if Allah wills, even Muhammad didn't even know if he was going to make it. And he was the supposed prophet and revelator. He didn't even know. And I believe, a little bit rusty on this, I mean, what hope is there in that? The only way to be guaranteed heaven or paradise with virgins, if you're a male, is if you die in jihad, trying to kill somebody. And there's different variations of what jihad is. And the only way a Muslim woman can be guaranteed, from what I understand, can be guaranteed heaven is if 2 of her sons die in jihad. And there are twice as many women in hell as there are men.
You see, Matt, this is another thing. The people usually confuse the Al-Bukhari Sahih Hadiths with the Quran. What you're basically referencing currently, it's not in the Quran, it's actually in the Hadith. And it's in Al-Bukhari Hadith, Sahih Hadith. For me, I completely reject the Hadith for the simple reason that it's never been validated by the Quran, right? Because the Hadith is a secondary book that's based on the primary book, and in this case, it's the Quran. And the secondary book has never been validated either directly or indirectly through the Quran.
And the Quran has its own historical problems, internal problems, and there's some doubts to its reliability and coherence within it. In fact, you heard about the Yemen Quran? Did you hear about that?
The Yemeni Quran. I did not hear about that, but does it have a specific name? Typically, they have it.
It's a story I read years ago, and I forgot who. I think it was British people, but I don't know. Okay, they were working inside of a very old mosque doing something, and there were books up near the dome or near the roof or something like that on a ledge, and just one fell. That's going to happen. Just a book fell. So it's been there for hundreds of years, and it turned out to be a Quran, and it was different in the Arabic than the Quran that they have today. Not in every detail, but it was different in some significant areas, and they found this out very quickly, and the Yemeni government confiscated it and won't let it out.
Right. So the thing with this is there is different versions of the Quran because there's different dialects that exist within Pakistan, India, et cetera, et cetera. However, the versions of Quran you're talking about, these are personal versions of the Quran, and the only thing that differs, and I can actually send you a link. The Qurans essentially convey the same meaning. The meaning is not changed. The change within these personal copies, typically, it's that it's basically it's for a specific dialect. And of course, you're aware of you're aware of Ibn Uthman burning the 6 Qurans that were associated with 6 dialects, and keeping the one Quran, the modern Quran that's currently used, the Qurayshi. Right? The Qurayshi Quran. So that's basically all that's to it. But what you're saying, it doesn't actually mean anything because the message came out before the physical copy of the Quran was even compiled. People have this misconception that people didn't know what the Quran is or what was in the Quran before the actual Quran was compiled. That's not true. People actually were fully aware and they fully understood what was inside the Quran before it was even compiled through the manuscripts.
That's not accurate because Sahih, I believe it's Sahih Bukhari, is the one who says, I think it was Sahih, who says that there were different recitations of it from different people, and there was some confusion about what had to be included.
You see,
here we are. Here we're going.
Right.
You know, we're supposed to, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I apologize. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
No, I was and I wasn't, but go ahead.
I was going to say, especially when you say stuff like this, it's crucial for you to find out if it's sahih or da'if. And sahih, all sahih means is that it's very it's highly trusted. You know, it has a lot of sources that basically validate it. But there's actually
4 levels.
Yeah, 4 levels. There is 4 levels. Yeah, and da'if, there's hasan. For me, at least. Typically, I would only go with sahih, but you have to prove to me that it's sahih. For me,
I can prove anything to you. But what about just curious, just curiosity? I mentioned it quickly earlier. I don't know if I remember your answer. The Qudsi hadith. You reject those?
Yes, I reject all hadiths in general, unless they have been directly validated by the Quran. And Sunnis have a habit of, cherry picking and taking things out of context in order to validate these hadiths. So
okay, and which branch are you?
I'm a Quranist. The only holy book that I believe in is the Quran.
So you believe in the absolute truth of the Quran?
The absolute truth of the Quran. There's no other message other than the message that is conveyed in the Quran that I believe in.
So then you believe ISIS is correct?
No, ISIS, they're Sunni Muslim. Actually, ISIS goes by the Hadith, not the Quran.
ISIS goes by Surah 9, the second surah written, and no abrogation.
1 second. Surah 9?
Yes.
Okay. And which
Surah 9,
verse?
the second to last. Look at verse 5 and I believe 29.
So Surah
Killing the
Al-Tawbah?
unbelievers and going out and seeking them and destroying them.
Right. So verse 29, you said? Just
Yeah.
to be sure. Okay. 1
fight.
second.
I think the word fight in Arabic means fight to kill.
So for this hadith, it says, fight those who do not believe in Allah or in the Sorry, in this Quran, and I misspoke. So it says, fight those who do not believe in Allah or in the last day, and who do not consider unlawful what Allah and His Messenger have made unlawful, and who do not adopt the religion of truth from those who have given this the scripture. Fight until they give the jizya willingly while they are humbled. And I've actually addressed this verse multiple times. So for us to understand the proper context that this verse is written in, we have to look at the previous verse, because the Quran is not written like the Bible, right? The Quran and these specific surahs, they're built. Arabic is built upon each other. So for you to fully understand the context of one verse, you have to know the verse that comes before and afterwards.
That's true
right?
of the Bible also.
Yeah, that is true of the Bible also. I mean, there's some for most of it, yeah. So actually the previous verse says, "Oh, you have believed, indeed the polytheists are unclean, so let them not approach al-masjid al-haram after this, their final year, and if you fear privatation, Allah will enrich you from His bounty of He wills, indeed Allah is knowing and wise." So this specific verse that you're addressing, it doesn't directly tell you to kill anyone. What this verse is telling you, and I'm going to address I'm going to address the jizya thing, because this is the first time that I've had someone actually address the fighting part, because I think it's a very weak argument. Usually people say, well, they have to pay jizya, which is a tax for being non-Muslims. That's not true. The key word here for any English speaker is humbled, right? So they're paying the tax out of their free will. They're not being forced to pay the tax. And the reason for this is, right?
Yes, because they are.
No, because the main key here is humbled. You're paying the tax out of being humble, right? Right? No. Until they give the jizya willingly while they are humbled, because they're receiving benefits from being there in this area.
Wow.
They're receiving protection, resources, jobs, etc. And
I'm sorry, but you're misrepresenting what that is. You just flat out are. You and I both know what really happens in these countries where Islam is dominant, and when a Christian is in that culture, he is not allowed to have because he's paying the jizya. He's under force to do it. And you know for a fact,
1 second, Shamos, this is between me and him. Let him speak.
You know that in that context, that in those countries where that happens, the people who are humbled are the ones who are not allowed to have any jobs of superiority or authority over any Muslim at all in any way, where they are not able to evangelize, where they're not even, in some countries there's derivations and deviations, not even allowed to own a Bible. Some you can, some you can't. I knew of a guy who said that what he was, I think it was in Egypt, I forgot where Muslims would come into his home and say everything that you own belongs to Allah, and so therefore they would rob him because it's just a form of jizya.
Right.
I mean,
you see,
I know how it really works out.
Right. You see, the problem here is that now you're discussing, well, you're saying there's these Muslims countries that do this and that. I'm not interested in this. We're specifically and precisely talking about this specific verse here that we're looking at. And I'm showing you here that if it is true that this jizya must be paid against their will, then why would the verse specifically mention the two key words here, willingly and humbled? Right, the fact that it says they give the jizya willingly while they are humbled, that means, in other words, you're not under any law, and you're not like held accountable for you to give this jizya if you don't want to. What this basically means is that if you are humbled, right, by the fact that you're living under Muslim control and you're benefiting from the area that you live in, that if you are humbled, that you can willingly pay the jizya. And this is the key word, willingly and humbled, and you choose not to look at them for some reason. So that's one part. And also this specific one last thing.
That's what this is taqiyya to me. It's just
no. Do you even know what taqiyya is, Matt?
Yeah, yes, I do. Really using deception in order to further Islam.
And where did this idea of taqiyya originate from?
Oh, I don't remember.
Right. Well,
when your life's in danger.
Right. No, I'm not asking you to define taqiyya. I'm asking you where the idea or the word taqiyya originated from. Was it from the hadith or the Quran?
I just said I don't remember.
And this is a huge issue, right, Matt? Because you're debating a Quranist. You're not debating a Sunni Muslim.
Then go to Surah 354. Allah is the greatest of deceivers.
Well, we're gonna have to take a look at that in a bit. I was gonna address the last thing because
look,
you can't
I
cherry
spoke to you
pick.
20 minutes ago to spend time with my wife. Okay, she's had a lot of medical problems. She's fighting. I'm not trying to make an excuse, but in all
Right.
seriousness, I do need to spend time with her.
No,
Okay?
dude,
I
you go
really
ahead.
do.
We can continue
And-
this later. So.
Yeah, we can talk about it later. So tell you what, because all you and I are gonna do is go back and forth. And if you're gonna want to talk about Arabic, I would have to get my buddy who has a master's in Islamic law and speaks Arabic and was raised in Lebanon, and he
Sounds
could get
good.
done. And then it just be you two debating. Which, if you want to debate Arabic, then I would say you guys set it up.
No, I never
Great.
debated Arabic, by the way. Even this specific example, I was purely, just talking about the English translation.
Well, we have to talk about something that we both conceptually can argue, like the superiority of something or whatever, or the nature of stuff. Generally, what Muslims want to debate me on, I don't know why they want to do this, not a good idea for them, is to debate me on a biblical issue and a biblical concept as being true or false biblically. If I accept a debate on a particular thing, they're not going to win it because I know what the Bible says in certain areas. And I'm saying this to you directly because you're obviously not stupid. And I'm not trying to set you up in anything. So if we're going to come up to anything in agreement, it's going to have to be something that's going to be quite narrow.
Right. And by the way, before you leave, taqiya is actually the original definition, which at this point we're not concerned where it originated from. It actually means that you have to lie in order to preserve your life if you're under threat. So in this context, that me speaking to you, my life is not being threatened. So even then, I can't use taqiya. If even though I don't follow this idea of taqiya, I still can't use it even if I did. Just letting you know.
Imam tells you what it means in a certain context. What do you do? Because
I don't follow imams. For an imam to tell me to do something, he must first be granted permission from the ultimate authority in my book, which is the ultimate authority is God Himself. The only individual or the only entity that can grant these people permission to tell people what to do according to the message is if God directly gives them the same permission that He granted Prophet Muhammad or any prophet.
Well, then I don't know if we're going to be able to. I'm not trying to get out of it. I just don't know if we're going to be able to come to any agreement on any debate topic. I can't argue Arabic. I just don't speak Arabic. So it's like you don't know Greek. I've had 4.5 years of Greek. It wouldn't be fair for me to require that of you. New Testament written in Greek. So we have to come up with something that's going to be, applicable, whether God's Trinitarian or, but then that would put you at a disadvantage because I know the topic inside out, backwards, forward. So I'm not trying to be. I'm trying to be fair to you, actually. I mean, and you be fair to me the same way.
God is Trinitarian.
Well, why don't you guys
Yeah,
Why don't you guys do the Trinity versus Tawhid? I actually seen a debate on that. Basically, just compare both Islam and Christianity's conception of God.
Yeah, that would just be a comparison, and it would just be him saying what they teach and what I teach, and I could teach his side easily.
Yeah, and I can teach his too. I mean, it's more like we're teaching people here about the two religions. It's not really a debate. We're not
I don't
debating.
know if you know Christian theology very well. What's your first name, incidentally?
My first name is Adam.
Adam. Okay, I don't know if you know Christian theology very well. Almost every Muslim that
That's
I've ever
ironic.
debated. Oh no, my thing's going out. My headset's going out. It'll go out in about 3 minutes. So most Muslims I've ever debated on Christian theology or anything about it have gotten it mostly wrong repeatedly. So
I will be honest with you.
Tasteless?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tasteless. I don't know what Tasteless wanted to say. If you want to respond.
No. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, well, if the topic involves that, then I will put a very good effort into trying to educate myself on it. So.
Yeah, and you
Before
can
the
go
debate.
read up on because believe it or not, I'm a nice guy. I'd help you out, but I don't know if we're going to be able to come to a mutual agreed on topic because there's a disparity between things. If you're going to be only Quranic and not Hadith, that narrows it quite a bit. And then we go to Arabic, and then we get into some other issues. So it might be problematic, but you never know.
Yeah, and Christians find it easy to debate Sunnis because they can always find a lot of errors and a lot of contradictions in the Hadith, which makes it very easy for Christians to debate Sunni Muslims specifically.
I prefer the Quran. To be
Yeah,
honest.
me too. But I feel like if you debate someone that actually believes in the Hadith, it's very easy to win. It's very easy to win.
He's going to cite various things. There's ridiculous stuff in the Hadith, but then you have the 4 levels, and I would only go with Sahih. Sashi Bukhari, very basically, or Okay, look, I'm trying to not to cut you off, but my thing's beeping. It's going to go out any minute, and I'll.
No, you're good, man. I understand.
All right, so text me whatever. We'll figure it out. Okay.
Yep. I'll DM you, dude.
Okay.
Thank
All right,
you.
we'll talk to you guys later. Okay.
See ya, man.
See ya. Yeah, that was good, man. Oh shit!
You
I
know
gotta
the Muslims thought that Adam and Eve were the first humans?
Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah. I also have wife time, dude. See ya.
Is her name Dark Roast?
Man, well, I have to go. My fucking anime body pillow is making signals. So I have to go put on my HTC Vive, hop into my virtual reality. Oh, dude. Yeah. Yeah, he seems like a decent guy. I feel like he actually wants to like learn. You know, he's not interested.
He's like a non-cringy Darth Dawkins.
Look, Smeagol, if you can convince him to become a Muslim, and then now it's called Marm instead of Karm.
Well, I'm gonna completely change his name. I'm gonna name it. He's gonna be like named Muhammad or something. I'm not even gonna.
Mo Slick.
Well, the thing is, it's like he debates in good faith. Like he's not interested in being dishonest. I feel like if he's wrong, usually it's very clear that he's wrong. Like, you know, he doesn't try to weasel his way out. Typically,
I don't know about that. I mean, we're all going to do that at times, and there certainly are debates with Matt Slick where he's called out very blatantly on like just a logical issue, and he'll sit there and pretend like he's not doing exactly what he's doing.
But he's not Darth Dawkins. Like he's not the same level Darth Dawkins is at.
He's I think he's smarter than Darth Dawkins, and he's a lot more agreeable and easy to talk. You'd actually have a conversation with him, unlike Darth Dawkins.
Well, he's not a predatory debater, right? He's not interested in going in and like preying on you, like Darth Dawkins does, right? And he uses a lot of tools to his advantage, like the fact that he's a mod typically. And it's much easier to debate this guy because, like you said, he's like a nice guy. He's not predatory. He doesn't want to like come in and start attacking you and shit like that.
I don't want to jerk him off too much. He is passive aggressive. He can be rude, but I mean,
of course, yeah.
Darth Dawkins, he's an angel.
Well, maybe because I'm used to Darth Dawkins, that when I meet people who are passive aggressive and rude, like not as rude as Darth Dawkins, to me that's like huge. Maybe because I got too used to Darth at this point.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I mean, we would all agree that he's nowhere near as bad as Darth Dawkins.
So didn't you guys actually have a debate topic? Like, could attacks ever be voluntary? That's conceptual.
Yeah, I mean, but still, it's going to be very limited, and I don't think it's going to be very fun if we limit it to just one topic.
Has
Well,
the
that's the
Scottish
problem.
guy
If
come
there's too
over?
many topics, it's gonna go and you're gonna move
convoluted.
everything, and then it's gonna.
Well, what I was thinking about doing is putting them in a specific order where we like talk about one topic, and if it's completely died down, we can just move on to the next one, like in an order.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about, and I think it's going to keep things fun, and it's not going to die down.
That's probably true. Voluntary taxation sounds a little bit like an ANCAP debate. We've seen that one before.
Yeah, I've seen it a few times. I know.
Actual comments, boy. I don't know who Lauren Southern is. I'm going by what the farmers are saying in the documentary, not necessarily what she's saying.
Yeah, the farmers are wrong.
Laura Southern is a piece of slime mold that became intelligent and went on TV.
Laura Southern is her only positive qualities are that she's hot and she has a hot sister.
Just kind of hot.
Okay, so why explain the vitriol against this person? Because I don't know.
Honestly,
anything.
she's just a very cookie cutter conservative commentator, right? like just very. I don't know what.
Cookie cutter. That's a good word to explain.
She's
it, yeah.
conservative.
Yeah, she's very she's very.
Okay.
She's conservative.
She's an explicit
I
white
didn't know.
nationalist.
I just watched. All I did was watch this farming documentary. I wasn't interested in the documentary. I was interested in what the farmers had to say.
Like she does very clickbaity type videos. Things like, oh, white genocide in South Africa. Oh, the migrants are coming in and fucking everybody. Oh,
I
no, Muslims in
think
Australia.
that a 1 hour and
Muggles. She wrote a
13-minute
book.
video is clickbait.
Well, she started out as a news journalist. Like, I don't think she was very opinionated at
Even
first,
before
right?
that. You know what? I'm gonna link you the first video that Lauren Southern Ether produced. It's so fucking funny.
Okay, so then I could get an idea of who she is. But these farmers, when they're talking themselves and you're listening to an uncut a talk where they're talking through their whole thought, okay, that makes an impression on me because she's not cutting what they say. They get to say their whole thought, and what they say is absolutely heinous. What these black people are doing because they want the reparations, they want their land back, and it would be fine if they have their land back. But to go and kill these farmers the way they do in an obscene manner, and then the people that recruit these killers, they have them kill them. With the promise of them getting this wonderful working farm. Well, they don't know shit about farming. So all these farms are going to shit because the people that are taking them over don't know how to farm.
Wait, didn't this happen in another country where the president was begging them to come back, like the white people? What was it? Was it Zimbabwe? I don't remember which country it was.
It's South Africa.
I believe it's Zimbabwe. I just don't want to be wrong.
Zimbabwe. In South Africa, none of what you claim is true. Like, I don't.
Look, here's the thing about this. What I've heard is that this idea of white genocide in South Africa is severely exaggerated, but I personally don't know much about the topic, so I might just.
I'm specifically talking about farmers. I'm not talking about all white people, because if you go to Cape Town, that's a tourist trap. There's tons of white people there.
Well, the thing is actually quoting Lauren Southern over like a UN report or something. Just so
she doesn't even know Lauren Southern though.
Yeah, I don't know who that person is.
I'm referring to actually Communist Boy, where he says trusting Lauren Southern over the UN. Was someone actually doing that?
Yeah,
I don't know.
So Muggles assert that there's rising food insecurity in South Africa. If there is, the food insecurity is less than 5%, which means it's